Next up, I have a movie I actually haven't seen of Carpenter's. I'm going to be doing 2 movies I haven't seen from him. They are movies he wrote and did not direct. When I started this, I had no intention on doing these, but when I was looking through his filmography, these really stood out. And yes, I knew of their existence for sure, but I was like, oh wow, like he wrote this and it has this incredible cast and it has this great director and I was like, shit man, I had never seen this movie. Like this is the perfect time to do this. So here we go with now he does do other ones. There's like a bunch of silly ones he wrote. I'm not doing those. There's only 2 that he wrote that he didn't direct that I'm going to do here, and this is one of them. So let's talk about it. Now, The Eyes of Laura Mars, starring Faye Dunaway, Tommy Lee Jones, and the immortal Brad Dourif, which always instantly makes a movie cool. I say that about Clint Howard and everything, but I fucking 10 times over mean it here with Brad Dourif. I mean, as much as I love Clint Howard, he's more of a novelty as to where, you know, Brad Dourif is an excellent actor and brings such an incredible presence to the screen. So he truly is a great addition to any film that I watch. Not just because it's like, oh, there's the goofy guy, I love him, he's always a fun time. No, like Brad always brings it. And of course him being Chucky and that voice being so iconic, you can't help but it feels soothing when you hear it because you're just so used to it. Like Chucky films are so close to my heart. We'll get into that. But anyway, we also have Raul Julia here, you know, Gomez, or M. Bison from the Street Fighter movie with Van Damme. Jesus, that was like his last movie. That movie was so bad it killed him. Poor joke. All right. But yeah, it was weird. I've never seen this. Crazy. And the 2 movies that I'm going to watch both star Tommy Lee Jones, weirdly enough. And they are both directed by people who did direction on Empire Strikes Back. This one was done by the main director of Empire Strikes Back. And the other one was done by the second director on Empire Strikes Back. And as I said, they both star Tommy Lee Jones. Big coincidence there, I guess. But one thing that really shocked me about this when it started was I was sitting there and I was listening, and there's really cool title cards and whatnot, and there was this great like heavy emotional song that was playing. This girl was like belting it out and whatnot, and I was like, yeah, that's a good song. That's a good opening song. Fuck, this is cool. I really like this song. Like sometimes I want to fast forward through stuff like that, like opening credits. I'm just like, nah. Like when it's just names, you know, outside of maybe like Halloween because the music's so iconic and you got the pumpkin. But if it's just like black screen with names, I'm just like fucking fast forward. I'm not a fan of opening credits almost ever unless they're like stylized and there's something to them. But I prefer always, you know, like a Lord of the Rings, no, directed by Peter Jackson, starring Orlando Bloom and Elijah Wood and Ian McKellen. It's like, that would be so lame in the opening. Same thing with like Star Wars. Do you imagine having like starring Mark Hamill and like as the scenes are going on, and directed by George Lucas as soon as Vader comes through? That would be so lame. I don't like opening credits. Like, you get credits at the end. I get it, no one sits through them, and it used to be there was no end credits, so they had to do it at the beginning or they weren't going to do it at all. I don't know, it always takes away from it. I also hate, like, nowadays especially, there's like 6 production companies that play before the film. So not only did you sit through 10 fucking minutes of trailers when you're in the theater, but then you see, like, you know, Columbia Pictures and Lionsgate and 6 other fucking little branch off companies that you never heard of. And then after sitting through all of their logos that take like 5-10 seconds each, and every one of them makes you think the movie's starting because like they have such cinematic qualities to them. Now you're just like, oh, is this the movie? And then you're like, oh, it's just fucking like, you know, whatever. Lame. And then the movie starts, and then we have to see all the names over again. Like 20th Century Fox presents in a Lionsgate partnership, whatever. And it's like, I just saw those fucking names. Anyway, that doesn't even apply to this film. I just went off on a tangent because it's always bothered me, and sounded like the better time than anyways. Getting back to what I was talking about, this song shocked me because I went and I looked it up thinking like, this is a really cool song. It was Barbra Streisand. Barbra Streisand. I was sitting there rocking out, digging a Barbra Streisand song. No fucking offense to anybody who's into Barbra Streisand. In fact, I don't really know much of her work anyways, but there's something about Barbra Streisand that just screams out. It's kind of like a Tyler Perry type situation where it's like, even though I've never seen a Tyler Perry movie, I have a feeling I would think they were awful. And Barbra Streisand's music, I have that preconceived notion of it, that it's probably something I wouldn't enjoy personally. And at least this song was totally good, and I was surprised. And I also found out she was supposed to be the star of this movie. She was supposed to be Laura Mars, and so she did the song, and then Faye Dunaway ended up getting the part. I don't know what ended up happening for that to go down, but whatever. Cool song, and it was very surprising. I feel like I've talked about more about opening credits on other films that aren't applied to this one than the film itself. Whatever. This film really reminded me of a Dario Argento film. Like, that's what I kept feeling. Like, it felt like an Italian giallo film. That's the way it felt to me, honestly. Like, some of the stylized shots within the film, and Carpenter may have wrote it this way because he definitely has influences of Bava and stuff in his films. How could you not, as a horror director, especially that close in time with that director, and Argento too. But this is 78, and Argento was kind of still newish, so I don't know how much inspiration he drew from him, but it did feel like that. You know, the stylized shots of like seeing the killer through the eyes, and the way the bodies were laid out, and you know, highly stylized deaths, like where they were displayed as art and whatnot. And I also really liked that the killer was mirroring the pictures that she had put out into the world. And we're talking spoilers here, obviously, but you know, I also really enjoyed you know, that explanation at the ending on who the killer is, and why, and how he thinks that she's glorifying death, and death is special and it shouldn't be looked at as art and whatnot. I get it. I totally understand that. I mean, here I am, a horror fanatic who watches death as art all the time, and while I do love it, I tend to agree to an extent that, you know, over saturation of murder as art isn't the greatest thing in certain ways, but I only agree on that in a realistic aspect. Like, I don't like when murderers are glorified. Fictional death to me is fine, but I'm not a fan of people being like, oh yeah, Charles Manson is cool, and Ted Bundy, and I'm gonna wear a Manson shirt. Like, no, dude, those people suck. All right, those people are fucking idiots, and we shouldn't give them 1 second of credence, not 1 second of our time. But another tangent. Oh my God, I'm just going off tonight. Now, the acting in this film is superb. This movie has that really gritty crime drama feel to it, with horror elements splashed in. Feels like you know, it even has this like chase scene with Brad Dourif and Tommy Lee Jones when they're going through the streets of New York. Really good chase scene. Kind of reminded me of films like Serpico and The French Connection and stuff like that kind of film. And it really is it's such a good movie. I was like, wow, this is great to watch now, because first viewing, and I really enjoyed it, and all the acting from everyone, especially like Raul Julia and Faye Dunaway, when they're like, you know, they're like ex-lovers, ex-husband and wife, and they're like cats and dogs like fighting. It really was like intense and emotional, and felt realistic. It felt like they were a married couple and they were going at it. And the fight, the love interest between Tommy Lee Jones and Faye Dunaway really felt realistic. I could feel their chemistry. The fights between Brad Dourif and Faye Dunaway, or you know, Laura Mars's, whatever the hell that guy was, I couldn't figure it out. I thought it was her lover, and then she was like with Tommy Lee Jones, and And then the other dude was her husband of late, and I was like, wait, what? Who is this guy again? So I don't know who he exactly was, maybe her agent or whatever. I must have missed who he actually was. But, you know, when he was fighting with Dorff in the front, and they were going back and forth, and you got that loud Dorff yell, and it was like, Chucky! It, like, you just close your eyes, and you're like, I can hear Chucky. When he yells, it's always Chucky to me. But their interactions were great. Like, everyone's bouncing off of each other. I really just, it felt so realistic. And obviously that has to do a lot with the director. I mean, this is the guy who directed Empire Strikes Back. He's not no slough. And it shows here for sure. And I just really enjoyed all the performances. I did have to kind of laugh, though, that this girl is supposed to be this rich, famous photographer, and she lives in this nice, fancy apartment. Like, the cop looks in, and he's like, damn, nice place, whatever. And then when we see her going around town in the streets, her driver is driving this shitty station wagon, and then when she's out driving by herself, she's driving a Ford Pinto. And this was like a decently produced film. I mean, they had lots, it seemed like they had money, and I feel like they could have rented nicer cars for the set. I don't know. It was just like, a Pinto? A shitty station wagon? And then we go to your, like, penthouse apartment looking thing? Like, these aren't matching up. Yeah. And the whole idea that, like, you know, Tommy Lee Jones' character has, like, this split personality, and that split personality is connecting with her. That's one of those things where you just really can't overthink it. It's just like, it is what it is. It's a film, and that's that. Why they're connected, and you know, but you kind of got that. You kind of got that back and forth where he's one guy who hates and resents her, and wants to murder her and kill everything that she stands for, like going after her friends and attacking her art and making her a fraud and exposing her for glorifying murder and whatever. You got this guy over here, and then you've got this guy, because they kind of get the close-up of the shots of the face and the eyes and everything, that loves her and is all about her and ends up, you know, having his "kill me, Lisa" Freddy's revenge moment, where it's like, I'm in the inside and I'm breaking out, kill me now. While, you know, plenty of movies do that, and it's just his split personalities. One hates her and one's in love with her, and the one that hates her has the connection with her. So through like a, you know, psychic link kind of thing, and then the other one has like a physical connection with her. So yeah, like one's more like metaphysical and one's more like actual physical. So I don't know. Yeah, really cool thing. As I said, you can't overthink it. Like, who cares? It's a film. Is that shit real? No, of course not. And is there any kind of explanation? Do they get into like a backstory of like, how did they become? Were they both standing in the rain one night and lightning struck both of them and it connected their minds and split his personality? And like, didn't need that shit at all. And I'm glad they didn't have to go there with their over explanation of how they became connected. There is no explanation of any sort. And I'm kind of glad, to be honest. Even though I'm okay with explanations at times, I just feel like this one would have been forced, because there really isn't one. Like, really, you don't need one, because the answer is, it's a fucking movie. Calm the fuck down and just watch it. But as I said, anyway, cool ass movie. Really glad I watched it. Looking forward to the other one I haven't seen here in the next couple days. I think that's like years later, though. It's like 6-7 years later. So it's going to be a little while before I get to that. I ordered a bunch of like Steelbook Blu-rays for this. So I ordered like 5 new beautiful Blu-ray transfers. Hopefully they're beautiful. I'm sure they are. For this review session here. So I know I get a couple of them on Friday. And I'm looking forward to getting to those. Anyone seen this one? Fans? If you're watching by this point, I hope you've seen it. All right, guys.